Larry Bird is one of the most resilient players of all time. This is 5 times he was injured but refused to quit. Let's go. Y'all see the sub count right there, man? We going up every single day. Larry Bird, you were injured?
You know, to his credit, he gets up and fights through it and goes out there and plays, but he is not a healthy person right now.
Hold on. Let's turn this up.
I've never met an athlete.
Is this low for y'all? Is this a little too low for y'all? Let me turn on. You got a little volume booster up here. Hold on now. Y'all don't know nothing about this. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Y'all don't know nothing about that.
Pain the way he does, and an athlete that's so highly self-motivated as Larry Bird.
I think 4 or 5 years you'll think back about what he did, or you'll just, you'll go that. I think it's one of those things that as the years go by, it'll become bigger and bigger and bigger.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back with another video. For this time, once again, we have to talk about Larry Legend, one of my favorite players of all time.
Yeah.
And I think even the most casual NBA fan knows that Larry Bird in his career was a very tough player, and he overcame tremendous adversity as well as injuries.
That man had a black eye?
He's a very tough player, and he overcame tremendous adversity as well as injuries. And I wanted to make a very quick video explaining how tough Larry Bird was and just some of the big time injuries he overcame.
Y'all gotta pay attention, man. Look at the blood on his shirt. Look at the blood.
And just some of the big time injuries he overcame. So with that being said, let's get into the video and look at 5 times Larry Bird overcame injuries and absolutely dominated. So the first injury we're going to look at is from 1979, before Larry Bird was even in the NBA. And this injury occurred in a friendly softball game with Larry Bird's brother as well as friends. And here Jackie McMullen explained this very bizarre and peculiar injury.
Well, he shows up, and who's on the other team but his brother? So Larry's playing out in the outfield, and his brother hits this kind of spinning, looping ball, almost like a Tim Wakefield knuckleball. It's just spinning all over the place.
Tim Wakefield.
And Larry tries to go down and make a basket catch, and his finger goes all the way back, and he's like, man, wow, it really hurts. And he looked down, and his finger was completely dislocated and mangled, and he really was bothering him. He had to stop playing right away. And so now remember, he's been drafted by the Celtics during this point, but he has not signed a contract yet. So his finger is in a bad way. He has to have major surgery with clips put in and pins and everything else. And he never tells the Celtics this has happened. But sooner or later they get word, and they summon him to Boston. And the trainer examines him and says, and the team doctor examines him, and they say to Red Auerbach, this guy's damaged goods. Now, Red's like, really? So he says, come on, Larry, get dressed. So Larry puts on his stuff. Red throws him the ball. He goes out. He starts shooting from all over the floor. He's hitting from everywhere. Throws him a few bounce passes. Has him throws a few overhead passes. And he said, you look fine to me, kid. And Bird said, great. But Bird to this day will tell you, he's never had the same feel for the basketball.
So obviously a pretty bad finger injury that affected Bird for the rest of his life. And around 2010, Larry Bird gave an interview and said his finger to this day is shaped like a boomerang at a 45-degree angle pointing toward his thumb. And he's had 2 surgeries that have failed to straighten it out. But I think the most intriguing thing in that clip is that Larry Bird himself said he never had the same feel for the basketball after this injury. And
Dang, Larry Bird, what the? Oh my God, I'm sorry if I wasn't bringing the energy before. Larry just dunked on that man. Oh my God.
The basketball after this injury.
Whew.
And Bird for his career already.
All right, let me talk about it. Let's really talk about it. If Larry Bird was in college going crazy, but he did lose to Magic Johnson in that end game, and then he got drafted by the Celtics, but in between the time in the offseason, before he actually signed the contract and played his first game, he injured his finger and said he never felt the same ever again with his finger. But he still went on to be one of the greatest players of all time. Did that help him? Or maybe was that some type of magical thing that happened that gave him a little superpowers? No, I'm just playing. But it doesn't seem like it hindered him a lot. It seemed like he was able to play through that all the time. It seemed like the title says, he refused to quit because of that little finger injury. That's crazy.
Reddy was one of the best shooters of all time. He was the first player ever to win the 50-40-90 club, and he routinely shot over 90% from the line. But with that being said, Bird actually could have been a better shooter than he was in the NBA if it wasn't for that devastating finger injury. Now, next up on the Bird injury list, we go to his back, one of the worst injuries a player could ever have. and this injury for Bird occurred in 1985 in the middle of his prime. And here's his doctor, as well as a few commentators, talking about how tough Bird was and how difficult it was for him to even play a basketball game.
Golly.
Larry had 2 jobs his last 7 years of playing. It was playing basketball, and then it was him being committed to taking care of his back.
He had first heard it in 1985, building the driveway at his mom's house back in French Lick.
Larry decides to do it himself. This is Larry Bird, the superstar, out there breaking his back, literally shoveling gravel.
I heard this.
And that was the beginning of a process.
I would see him on TV laying down, and then they told me that he had to lay down on planes, different things like that. And I was like, wow.
As Magic soared through the prime of his career, Bird was breaking down. His deteriorating back.
Imagine seeing your favorite player of all time. Mine is LeBron James, but yours might be Larry Bird. Imagine seeing him have to lay down, literally lay down on the ground to give his back a little bit of ease during the NBA game on live television. Like, that means he couldn't wait till the end of the game to get some treatment. He had to physically lay down and get that pain off of him as the game was going on, so when he checked back in, he could be better than he was before. That's crazy, man. Like, I would literally want my favorite player to retire if I seen that. But he refused to quit. He refused to quit.
And punishing style of play, proving an excruciating mix.
From 88 to 92, it was painful to watch. It was painful to cover. Larry is quite ornery when he's not feeling well, which means he was ornery for those next 4 years.
He could manage the pain in a way that very few people can do.
If you get paid to go to work, you got to go to work.
It was a situation that he was seeing almost daily. He had lost the structural stability in his spine, so it would slip into abnormal positions to try and lock itself to get an artificial stability. That's like getting your finger stuck in a door and somebody's still pushing on the door. So what we had to do was unlock his spine, realign it, do techniques that would hold that for 4 hours, 6 hours, that type of thing, and then he'd go play basketball.
Wow.
So obviously that back injury was pretty devastating for Bird, and it kind of marked the end of his prime. But even with that being said, Bird in his last 7 seasons still put up tremendous stats, averaging 25.1 points per game, 9.3 boards, 7.0 assists on near 50-40-90 split.
The man's almost went 50-40-90 on a 25-point triple-double with an injured back. Do I have to say more, or should I keep going? I think I should keep going. The man would have been the greatest player of all time. The man would have won 10 championships. I don't care if he only won 3, he would have won 10 if he wasn't injured. Come on, man. That's how I feel. This show it. This proves it.
Thanks. Those stats right there from offensive perspective are still some of the best stats of all time.
All time.
And once again show Bird could handle pain like few athletes ever.
Like no other.
And one of the most remarkable things I've ever heard comes from Larry Bird's former teammate, that being Robert Parrish. According to Parrish, Larry Bird never took painkillers, pills, or any shots in his entire career. Bird simply toughed it out and showed mental toughness as well as physical toughness and played basketball at the highest level for 7 more years.
Wow.
Now also one thing Larry Bird was known for in his career was being mentally tough. And here's a quick story from Kevin McHale talking about Larry Bird's mental toughness after being stuck down in an airport for 10 straight hours.
Back then when we flew commercial, we didn't fly private, we played in a Tuesday night game in Cleveland. And of course we got up for the first flight out. We had a game on Wednesday night in New Jersey. Snowstorm hits Cleveland. We're at the airport at 7 in the morning. Flight's canceled at 7. It's canceled at 8. It's canceled at 9. It's canceled at 10. Canceled at 11.
Wow.
12. We finally leave about 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon. We fly up to New Jersey. Now the storm has kind of moved into Jersey. And the bus driver says, well, I can't get to the hotel into the arena, but I can only go to one place. Well, we had a game that night, we go to the arena. So we get to the arena, and I mean, we're dragging. And we're sitting around the locker room, and, and everybody's kind of, we're tired, and, and all of a sudden, the coach gives a little bit of a speech of, come on, man, guys, we're playing basketball, let's get ready to go. And Larry stands up, and Larry says, a couple other few choice words, and he says, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to take it out on their rear ends. So I was like, oh, all right, so let's go. So we go on the floor. Elbert King sitting there. Larry walks up to Elbert King and goes, don't take this butt whooping personally. I've been eating hot dogs all day. And then Albert King looks at him like, you've been eating hot dogs all day? What's that got to do with me? And we went out and just hammered them. I mean, we terrorized them.
Look, Shaq like, man, that's what I like to hear. Shaq don't like no babies on the court. He don't play. He don't, hey, if he think you are out there acting like a baby, he will say that on live television to your face. Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, he will say it. Look, Shaq over there smirking. He happy. He is.
And we went out and just hammered them. I mean, we terrorized them. And that was Larry. There was no excuses. I mean, he just played. And I tell you, that was just his competitive nature. But a day when you fly all day and eat hot dogs in the airport, best thing was Albert's look on his face like, what hot dogs got to do with me?
And that story from Kevin McHale, for the most part, is pretty comical, but I think it still shows Larry Bird had extreme mental toughness, and when it came to playing basketball, he would give it his best every single night. And I actually went back to Larry Bird's game charts, and I found this game from 1986 on April 13th. In this game, Boston beat New Jersey by 28 points. Larry Bird had 26, 4, and 3 on 64% shooting, and he didn't miss a single three-pointer or a single free throw. And what makes it even more impressive to me is this game versus New Jersey was the last game of the season. Bird could have easily packed it in and waited for the playoffs, but still, he wanted to play this game for his teammates as well as his coaches. And that year in '86, Larry Bird didn't miss a single game, playing all 82. And if you compare that mindset from Bird to the modern day players, it's simply night and day. I pretty much guarantee you, any modern day superstar will 100% sit out that game and rest for the playoffs, but not Larry Bird. And when talking about Larry Bird in his prime, 1980 to 86, really before his big-time injuries, he played 561 out of 574 games. He played all 82 games 3 times and over 36 minutes per game.
He missed 13
every single
games
year.
in 6
In
years?
2 years, he actually led the NBA in minutes per game. So back in the day, Larry Bird, if he could walk, he was 100% suiting up and playing basketball. But the one time in Bird's career where he simply could not play was in 1989. This year, Larry Bird had severe bone spurs, he had what many people thought was a broken foot, and he had double Achilles surgery. And back in the day, an Achilles injury could possibly be the end of your career. But once again, not for Larry Bird, as the following year, he had a very great and underrated season.
Look, 25-point triple-double.
9.5 boards, 7.5 assists, while playing 75 games at 39.3 minutes per game, while leading the NBA in free throw percentage. So even after all those injuries, Larry Bird once again came back to all-star form.
Just imagine hitting 93% of your wide-open shots. Just imagine.
And he overcame double Achilles surgery. Now the last Bird injury we have is in 1991. And this injury is also the last great Larry Bird moment in the 91 playoffs versus the Indiana Pacers. And to kind of set the stage, in this series, Boston, they were heavily favored. But in games 1 through 4, Bird was not playing up to par, only averaging 18 points per game, 9 assists, 8 boards, on 37% shooting, and 11% from 3. And back in the day in the first round, it was a best-of-5 series. So Game 5 was a winner-take-all game.
Best of 5
and near
is crazy.
halftime of this game, Larry Bird would go down with a severe head injury, possibly a broken cheekbone, as well as a mild concussion.
Oh, I think I heard this. He came out there after the concussion.
But he stays down for a long time.
He came out after the concussion and went crazy, right?
What effort by Larry Bird. And Larry Bird is headed directly to the locker room for treatment.
15
But in
points,
typical
2
Larry Bird
rebounds.
fashion, he would tough it out and come back in the middle of the third quarter.
And here comes Larry Bird.
Yeah.
But certainly this out of the pages of Willis Reed in Game 5 of the championship series involving the Knicks and the Lakers in 69-70.
And in this Game 5 in the Boston Garden, from that moment on, Larry Bird would dominate for the remaining 18 minutes of that game, having 17 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists, on 60% shooting, leading Boston to a 3-point win. And that Game 5 versus Indy is the last great Larry Bird moment as he overcame injury and dominated in that second half. So with that being said, that is the end of the video. Let me know your guys' thoughts. How tough do you think Larry?
Man, how tough do y'all think Larry Bird is, and how tough was Larry Bird throughout his entire career? Y'all probably seen more of the live footage than I did, so you guys could probably tell exactly how gut-wrenching it was to see him play through all the pain. But me myself, just seeing these clips, seeing him fall on the ground with his head down, almost having a headache, him having to lay down in the middle of a game, I could just imagine how bad he really was going through it. But to see his will and his refusal to quit, it just shows me how much of a resilient player Larry Bird is. I already knew that he was resilient, but it shows me even more that Larry Bird is that guy. Larry Bird is who everybody thinks he is and more. The man averaged a 25-point triple-double while being injured and shot 50, 40, 90. The man is a legend. That's why they call him Larry Legend. Y'all let me know down below, was Larry Legend doing everything you thought he could do? And if he did not get injured, how many championships do you think he'll have? I said 10. I say 10. Y'all let me know down below. I'll be in the comments with y'all. That's the end of this reaction though, man. We have other reactions on this channel. We have more reactions to come in the future. If you guys could like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, that'd be good for me. And we out.